Hi, everyone. I think we're still waiting for Chenault.
So I would just like to note that I spoke to Doris. She's one of the attendees with a phone number of ending in 705. She did not get a notice or any information about tonight's meeting ahead of time, but she is on the phone.
I thought that I just moved her so she can speak. I think it's the same call-in information for the landmarks meeting anytime there's a landmarks meeting. So it's the same webinar, or it's the same webinar ID and the same phone number. So
That's what I gave her. So I guess that was successful. That's good. Thank you.
I'm here.
Good.
I just texted Chenault to see what there is to see.
Am I unmuted? Yes.
Well, Albert, I don't know if you want to be unmuted until we start talking, but whatever.
I might want to say something eventually.
I just got a text back from Chenault saying that he can't get on.
So let me go and I'm going to resend to him right now the
All right, I'll tell him that you're resending.
He also may need to log out and log back in. Zoom is a little finicky sometimes if everything has been on for a couple days and hasn't been reset.
Yeah, it's also the update. If it's Zoom did a big update, a big security update on June 1st. So but he's been on other meetings, so it's not that. I'm just talking to myself. He just texted me and asked to send him the link, but I think you just did that, right, Carter?
I did. Yeah. I can also. Should be in his email. Schnauz is joining us now. Albert, can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, right.
Hello.
Chanel?
Hello. Yes. I'm sorry. I've had to change to a different machine, and that's a virtual background. I'll try to work on it. In the meantime, we can begin. Is everyone here in an order, Valerie?
Yes.
Valerie?
I'm muting myself.
Oh,
Hello, Chanel.
is everything here in an order?
We have 7 out of 10, so we have enough to get started.
And there 2 are missing from tonight. So
8 out of 10, yes.
okay.
Correct. We're ready.
Okay, one moment. The first application is from 340 Bleecker Street. Applications to install a bracket sign replacing a historic neon sign for ground floor storefront. I need to explain a couple things about this. The commission had said, I asked them what was going on, and they said that, among other things, the fact that the sign was removed, they have no record of. We believe it was done 20 or 30 years ago. And the replacement sign is too large for the staff to approve. And so that's why it's before us.
Great. So I believe that Valerie Campbell is here to speak on that. So I'm going to promote her to a panelist. Valerie, are you ready?
Wait. Why is my video starting? Yes. Do you also see Robert Goldman?
Yeah. Would you like me to bring him over as well? Sure.
Yeah, he's the owner, and I think he's with the other people. And he was going to share his screen.
Okay, great. All right, he just needs to unmute and turn his video on or just share his screen. But he's all set to go.
Great. Maybe.
You can hear us. Our video somehow is not working right now, but we're working on a workaround.
Yeah, sometimes you have to try a couple times before it'll kick in. Maybe while he's getting the video, I can just introduce it. It's obviously the address is 340 Bleecker Street. It's in the Greenwich Village Historic District. This is an application for a neon sign that's going to be installed on an existing bracket on the building, and the sign has been designed to replicate a historic neon sign that was there, I think, during the 60s, the 1960s. The building is located at the southwest corner of West 10th and Bleecker Street. It's a 6-story apartment building built in 1928, and it has ground floor commercial. And this particular storefront has been vacant for about 7 years. So the owners, who were Robert Goldman and others, they're planning to open sometime this summer, we hope. And they, I think the community board saw them for their liquor license. And my understanding is they recommended approval of the liquor license.
Hi, we are able to share our screen where we have the presentation.
Let me see if maybe I can, yeah, it says it's disabled.
And if you could promote Brent Romano, he's sitting next to me with a backup video camera. We can get it.
Great, I promoted him.
Hi. All right. Yep. You guys hear us okay? So, if you could share my screen, the Robert Goldman screen, we can get ahead and put up the presentation. It says it's disabled. If not, we'll just start talking about it. Thank you for providing the forum to present the historical science.
Are there members of the public who are here for this application? Valerie, do you see members of the public?
Are you wanting people with questions or the app?
Members of the public. We can go on with our materials in hand because all the committee members have the materials.
I do not.
I don't see, there are 8 attendees who are not panelists.
Okay. Valerie, have you determined if anyone's here for this application?
I don't have an indication that they
okay.
are. I know that there was one letter of support, and I can see who that name was because I assumed that person would.
Okay, just keep working on it. If
yeah, I'll just take a look.
Otherwise, we'll go ahead with our materials that were sent.
Oh, yeah, someone's here. All right. So if you look on your third slide, you'll see the tax photos, the historic tax photos. The one on the left from 1940, it's a little bit hard to see, but there is, at this sign location, there is a neon sign that says liquor. In 1980, the tax photo shows the bracket, but there is no sign there. Then if you go to the next slide, which is 1960, we think around 1969, you will actually see the sign that we're replicating. It's a neon sign for Aldo's restaurant. I just doing some very preliminary research, I gathered that Aldo's restaurant was sort of important in the history of the village. Several of the people who worked there participated in Stonewall. Leonard Bernstein used to eat there occasionally. But I think the restaurant closed in the 70s. The next few slides are just slides showing.
I'm going to interrupt really quick, Valerie. You guys should now have the ability to share your screen.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's something that was previously set up, so.
Great. Perfect, here it comes. Oh, so there's the Aldo's restaurant sign. And then if we move to the existing photos, the next slide. There you see the first slide was what's existing. Now it's the landmarks approved storefront. It was approved at staff level. You see the bracket for the sign, which is there with that sort of drop down ladder. And here you see a rendering of the proposed sign for the restaurant. It's called Amos. And the film that you see in the rendering is just construction film. This is sort of shows what it'll look like when it's open, and it's just a rendering. So if you keep going here, details of the sign, it is larger. Landmark staff can approve bracket signs, but in this district, I think it would be limited to 18 by 24, which would actually be sort of proportionately kind of too small for the bracket, and also it wouldn't replicate the historic sign, so the size of it. So this one is 44 by 36 inches. And this is the only signage for the restaurant, will be the bracket sign. So here are just some streetscape images showing the block. And then the next slide that just shows where the photos are taken. And then here are some of the precedents in the village for historic illuminated and neon signs, typically for restaurants and switch. Next one's in bars. I think, is there one more? I think there's one more, yeah. So we think that this is a very appropriate for the district. And I think Robert and Brent wanted to say a few words about what their inspiration for the sign was and what their thoughts are about the restaurant and why it's appropriate.
Brent, do you want to? Sure. No, I think, can everyone hear us? Just nod your head if you can hear us.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Well, thank you everyone for taking the time to hear us out. I want to turn it over to Rob.
Yeah, thank you guys. We appreciate you providing the forum for us to even present the signage we'd like to reinstall at our new restaurant, which we hope to have you guys visit as soon as possible. As you can see from the photo records, like we were just trying to find precedent from the earliest we could find. We found stuff from the 1940s you already saw. And then the 1969 photo here really says it all. It's the president we want to revitalize. And learning that it was a favorite of the neighborhood heroes like Leonard Bernstein, and a place for many involved in the Stonewall and civil rights movements. Like we're honored to be part of this location, and we hope that our new sign will restore the beauty and vibrancy of the neighborhood. It's not only about just highlighting our history and the community, but also acting as a spearhead to bring more businesses back who can revitalize the neighborhood and focus on our history. The sign that will bear our name, will be our name, Amos. Amos is a historical reference to the original name of West 10th Street, where we're located, formerly Amos Street. When the streets lost their, when the grid system took over, we lost Amos Street to West 10th Street. But our goal is really to sort of highlight the historical significance of Charles Christopher Amos, the namesake of these streets of the West Village, one of the first residents of the city. So, you can see that the bracket sort of remains. We definitely think that, it looks lonely, and we want to, bring it back as best we can. We don't think we're really changing that many letters to begin with. So, it's very close to name that we got lucky with, I guess. But, we really just want to take this place, which was a vibrant hub of like retail and bustling West Village Street, and sort of bring it back from the retail vacancy and the decay and sort of the vandalism we've seen. And by restoring, as much as we can with the original facade and the original historic intent, we want to, we think that this is a very appropriate thing, and we want to contribute as best we can to the preservation and revitalization of the neighborhood. We welcome any questions or comments now or later, and would provide an open line of communication with the community board.
Okay, before the committee has a question, could you go back to the rendering of the sign itself, please?
This sign?
I'm just trying to get the note, but the page that had just the rendering of the sign with the letters.
The detail?
There, yeah. It's obviously, but it's a black background completely, including the curve around, because it has a thickness, and it's just a thick black box in the.
I think it's actually what the.
Can Valerie answer? I'm having a lot of trouble hearing Rob.
Oh, sorry. I think the intent is that the ends would be slightly curved, like the original.
Right. But there's everything's black except for the colored letters that we see Amos on Bleecker.
I believe that's the case.
That's just the neon popping out of the black metal. Okay.
I would like to point out that the top and the bottom have bars of a lighter color. There are two bars, top and bottom. Lighter color.
Is that a bar or is that a dimension?
No, that's a bar, like the original sign.
Okay.
Okay,
My apologies.
Valerie, will you call on the members of the committee, whoever raised their hand? Everyone just raise your hand on the committee who wants to speak
Yes.
with the machine.
Susan, Gammy.
Can you confirm that the proposed replicated sign is actually the same size as the Aldo's sign? Because 44 by 36 is quite large, and in fact is over three times the number of square inches of what would typically be allowed for a bracket sign. I understand you're replicating a historic sign, and you certainly substantiate that, but I'm concerned about the size, and I would like to know if you can really confirm that this is the exact size as the original Aldo's.
We have our evidence is the photo, but you can see the relation of the sign to the bracket, which still exists, is basically, we made it as close as possible to the historic sign.
And is that true also with respect to the ladder? Because it's quite clear it's the same ladder that's marking the height.
Yes.
It's not been.
Yes, it's the same bracket that was there historically, or so I think probably that bracket dates back, judging from the 1938 tax photo, to the liquor store sign. So I mean, if you were to put a 18 by 24 sign on that bracket, it would actually, I think, look a little silly because it would be too small.
There's no question about its time. I ate there in 1961 myself, so
That's
I can
great.
verify that.
How was the food?
Yes.
It was delicious, and I wish it were still there. It's better than anything that succeeded it. Other committee members, Valerie, when you see them? Valerie De La Rosa.
Any other committee members that have questions, but we do have somebody else from the board if we're ready to move on.
I have a question.
Okay, Sandy, go ahead.
Sorry. Can you go back and stay where you are? I'm sorry. I'm just asking if the yellow letters that we're seeing on your sign, I want to make sure I'm not seeing it incorrectly. It is not made of neon tubular letters. Is that correct?
I believe the intent is that that is it'd be neon letters. Robert, can you confirm that?
The background is sort of, it's on this slide. It's very fine print. I apologize if it doesn't show up on your screen as big. But the logo is written in yellow neon tube lighting on both sides. The mounting is eye hooks to the existing mounting bracket.
So
Valerie Campbell, can you just repeat what he said? I just cannot hear him.
Oh, okay. Yes. Now it is yellow neon tube lighting on both sides.
So why does it look different to me? Because when I look at the other signs that you show us, you can actually see the tubing and how the letters have to connect so that the tubing remains consistent. And this looks much more modern to me. Are your letters also above the backdrop?
I think what we're trying to accomplish is exactly what the historical precedent is. You know, I apologize that this rendering is not as detailed as perhaps like the actual photo that we grabbed from.
Okay.
So our goal would be to try to recreate this with just Amos on it instead of Aldo's. You know,
Yeah.
possibly.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay, we can move on, Valerie. De La Rosa.
Yep. Yes. No other questions from the committee?
Yes, I have a question.
Okay, sure, Albert.
As far as you know, the Aldo's sign was there when the district was created in 1969?
Correct.
it appears that it was there. It does not show up in the 1980 tax photo. Aldo's I read somewhere that there was a jazz club or something here during the 70s. So I assume that it was taken down sometime in the 70s.
I asked the commission about its absence, and they said that if it had been taken down and no replacement had been sought, it would not have come before them, at least back in those days.
Yeah, they were, this would have probably not been considered one of the buildings. They regulated that heavily in the 70s. So
okay, so that's the answer, that it was taken down, but it did not come before the commission. There's no violation or anything that suggests that.
So,
Is that all the questions?
yeah, Chanel, it's
Yeah.
Bo. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah. So two things. I'm just confused by this. Number one, is the Aldo sign neon, lighted neon sign?
yes, that is certainly what it looks like. When
I know, but you know, Valerie, with all due respect, you've qualified almost every single statement you've made tonight. So I'm not sure what your role is here, but if you are presenting, you should say things, I think, unequivocally.
Well, this is our evidence of this sign, this photo here. It looks very much like this is a neon sign from the photo. We don't have the actual sign. I don't have plans or building department approvals that show that it's a neon sign, but that's what it looks like from this photo.
Okay, and then and the proposed sign is also neon, and it would just be lighted to the extent of the name. I forgot the name already.
Amos.
Amos, right? So just the letters of Amos will be illuminated in that looks like rather thin, sort of orangey letters. Is that correct?
The intent is to replicate the style of these letters, and if we go back to the thing, and then restaurant would also be illuminated underneath it.
So you're actually, I mean, I don't know what the percentages are, but I don't know if this even matters, but I just want to be clear about it. This sign that you're proposing is both larger and has more illuminated.
No, it is not. It is not larger. We think it is the same size. The sign is larger than a bracket sign that commission staff could approve at staff level.
Also, just, we would argue that, you know, not even argue, to present to you guys that the illuminated, like there's less letters in Amos than there are in Aldo's. So there's actually.
Okay, I got it.
Okay, have the committee exhausted their questions?
No. So one other thing, let me just say that you know, this is it's not the I can't remember how wide that sidewalk is. It's not terribly wide. I don't really.
We can settle that in our meeting if you will, please.
Fine.
Okay. Dr. Ross,
yes, we do have, I just lowered his hand accidentally. We do have if there's no other questions from the committee, we do have a question from another board member, Michael Levine.
Yes, thank you. Hi, Valerie. Valerie, I have a question that I'm not sure. How are you, Valerie? I'm not sure if you can answer this question. I'm curious about the proportion. I, like Chanot, was a frequenter of Aldo's. I loved it, and I was sorry to see it leave. In terms of the size of this sign, what is the frontage of the current establishment, and what was the frontage of Aldo's? I think the issue of proportionality is important here. If the sign is the same, was Aldo's smaller than, or the same as, or larger than the existing establishment for which this bracket sign is being requested? Do you have information that could answer that question? I think
the information we have is the photo. If we can go back to the photo, we can see. So that photo seems to, looks like the restaurant goes, you know, basically to that light well. Is that
correct?
And I believe that is equivalent to where the restaurant will be. Maybe, if anything, I think it's smaller than the restaurant that's being proposed.
Exactly.
So the original Aldo's was smaller than the current proposed establishment.
Yeah, you can't see from the photo how far it extended, but I believe so. Robert, do you have a sense of that?
We ended up extending into another storefront when we built out our space. So Aldo's was most certainly smaller than our establishment. You know, we can't confirm with their lease because we don't have their old lease at this point. But we can say that we had to extended our storefront down another storefront. So proportionally, Aldo's had, you know, a much bigger sign compared to us, you know, relative to the size of their storefront.
Thank you.
Okay. Valerie John Ross, are there other people who wish to speak?
I see William Benesh with his hand up, another board member as well.
Hi, thanks Valerie, and thanks for the presentation. Just a quick question. Is there a measurement that anyone's taken of the length of the bracket from the wall out to the end? I was just wondering about the size of the sign relative to the bracket itself.
You know, if I had to guess, you know, that, you know, I do have a measurement of it. I don't have it in front of me right now, but, you know, I could always present it to the group at any point, immediately after this meeting. I would suggest that the sign is probably, the bracket's probably, you know, 7.5 feet, you know, projecting off of the building. But we can easily confirm that for the group, you know, immediately.
Valerie Campbell, may I suggest for the to go before the commission that the bracket be added to the rendering of the sign, and this will make all that crystal clear.
Okay, no, I think we can do that.
Yeah.
And we appreciate this suggestion.
Okay. Have we exhausted all the questions, comments? Sorry.
Just to address some of the comments that have been made about the proportionality of the sign, I think when you look at our historic precedents, they are very much not just the Aldo's, but the existing signs of this era that are still exist in Greenwich Village. I think our sign is really about the same, has the same sort of proportions. You know, part of the charm of these signs is that they do extend a little bit over the sidewalk. And I would note again that this is the only sign that's being proposed for the restaurant.
Okay, thank you. We'll move on to the next.
Do we have any questions from members of the public on this one?
Sorry.
Okay.
Okay, let's move on then. Thank you.
Great.
Thank you, guys. We appreciate it. And any communication you want to have with us, we have our open line for you.
Great. I'm going to move you guys back over. Thanks.
Thank you.
The next application is for 160 Prince Street to remove existing storefront windows and install the new storefront infill.
Right. So I'm adding Stefano, who's the architect on this, I believe, but I do not see your client. Let him get on.
Michael Levine, please mute yourself so we can take the screen.
Stefano, are you ready?
Hi, yes.
I need to say that before we have this presentation, we didn't get the materials in time to post them. So no one has a copy of the materials. And this is really serious because we have a member of the committee on the phone who will have no access to it. So that's a burden that we'll deal with, so thank you.
start my video. Hi, everyone. So everyone can hear me. Right?
Yes, we hear you.
I like to share my my screen. Let me see. Can everyone see the screen?
No, we still see you.
No, we don't see your screen yet, but you should be able to share. There should be a big green button at the bottom in the middle of the.
Share screen. Okay, share. I think you should see the screen now, no? It says your screen sharing, so you should see the screen, right?
We see you. Yes,
Yeah.
thank you.
Awesome.
Okay, thank you. So the application is for the redesign of the storefront. We're talking about 160 Prince Street at the corner of Thompson Street and Prince Street. And the restaurant is Coco Pazzo. And let me just scroll through the first images. On page photos for 1940, 1980. So we can see the original storefront as it was in 1940s and how it was then modified to what was the establishment that was there before the restaurant, which was a bar. And so the changes to the storefront that we have that have been done when the bar opened or before are the present ones, which show a storefront that goes on Prince and Thompson and windows with a sill and below the brick infill. I'll just go fast through. These are just photos showing all the storefront Prince Street and on Thompson Street. So we see both historical, like the Vesuga Bakery and the leather goods store, which are the historical storefronts. And ours for the Coco Pazzo, what is now Coco Pazzo, is just windows with below the brick infill. On page 6, we show different types of storefronts that are in the area. There are a lot of restaurants, and a lot of these restaurants have opened the storefront and created operable, in this case, many restaurants have fully openable windows. This, on page 7, we just show really what we're aiming to do. Maybe this is a bit small. Elevation. So the idea is on both streets to enlarge the opening of the windows down to the bottom and creating on the bottom a bulkhead. And this was as suggested by Landmarks. Landmarks also suggested to us to do as a minimum amount of divisions of the panels of the windows. So we're keeping the width of the windows the same. We're just opening it to the bottom and have a greater space, greater opening for the restaurant, which, the windows were good for a bar, but for the restaurant are really not working out. I want to scroll just to a window here. So these of a more close-up view of how the storefront would look. The existing here on the top, and the new one on this case is on Prince Street and on Thompson Street. To get us idea, we placed, these are just details. We show, sorry if the render didn't come out good, but it was compressed, but this would be the view on of the restaurant on Prince Street. So with the windows open all the way down to the sidewalk, to the curb. And this would be a view on Thompson Street, where the restaurant has two openings, one big window and a smaller one. The idea to create, first of all, we want to use steel as a material. So in order to not create like other areas, other establishments where they use wood, where the frame would be really thick. So this is just to achieve a thinner frame. And at the end, the operability of the window would be, we would have a fixed bulkhead on the bottom, and then operable windows on the top.
What color is the steel?
The frame is we chose a, it's called, it's a Gloucester Sage. It's the current color of the windows.
Just
right
describe
now.
it in words, Dr. May.
Sorry?
Just describe the words. Describe in words the color. What color is it?
It's a brownish color, brownish gray.
Okay, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. And yeah, that's the main, these are the main elements of the design. Landmark asked us to, if you see on page 8, we show how where the existing piers, the existing divisions of the walls, and how we just kept we didn't change, we're not changing I just wanted to repeat that we're not changing the widths of the windows, but we're just keeping the same width and just going down. And so, yeah. It's a pretty, we think it's a pretty straightforward approach.
Are you finished now?
Yes, thank you. Yes.
Okay. I'd like to go. This is the screen I'm after. I'm doing some screenshots. We'd like to ask you to stay in when we write the resolutions, because we normally have something to see to refer back to, and we may ask you to show certain pages. We won't have questions and comments from you, but we'll just ask you for certain pictures or certain pages. Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. Valerie, questions from the committee, please.
Yeah, are there any questions from the committee? There's no hands raised from the committee. There is a member of the public, so if nobody on the committee has questions. Okay, I see Brian. Pate?
Yes, thank you. I question whether taking all the brick from what would be called the bulkhead, in other words, by bringing the bottom below the windows and treating it with metal instead of masonry seems to the one violation of the historic building. Otherwise, of course, the storefront window size to me is appropriate, but having the bulkhead in a metal instead of masonry seems to be totally out of character. Have you investigated that?
Yeah, I think you have a very good point. Actually, our first solution was the window, and there was still brick on the bottom, but we came to the solution with landmarks because they request bulkhead, a metal bulkhead on the bottom, and it was mainly is the request. For us, it would be also achievable since we're not making it operable. We're just making the top operable. We could also have brick on the bottom. Yes.
I would suggest along Brian's line, if one looks at the lower left-hand picture, there's no unity between the two parts of the same restaurant, and extending the masonry along would tie it into the part that's not being changed.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Valerie, continue.
Right. Bo?
Yeah, hi. I'm just trying to remember that spot, which of course I know very well. I believe Coco Pazzo has an opening into a kitchen. Is that correct? As you go west on Prince, there's the doorway on the corner, and then there's the restaurant, and then I think there's another opening for the kitchen. Or maybe I'm wrong, but I'm just asking.
No. You're correct. There's an opening to the what's called the Coco Pazzo kitchen, is where they have the sandwiches, and it's the other. And behind there is the kitchen itself. Yeah.
And then going further west on east. I'm sorry. Going further east on Prince. Then there's a residential entrance, and then there is Vesuvio Bakery. Is that correct?
Yep. Exactly. Yes.
And you're not touching the residential entrance or the Vesuvio Bakery.
No, absolutely not. No.
Okay. All right. So then we get back to the what you call the Coco Pazzo kitchen, which do you envision changing the operation in some way? I only ask that because I'm just wondering if your proposed changes would contemplate putting the kitchen maybe back further and just having tables in the front there.
No, we're not. We're not thinking of opening that. The kitchen is remaining as is. All that area is remaining as is.
So that door that currently, I don't see that door, but I remember that it is there. The door to the street where the kitchen is, it will still remain there?
Yes, yeah. That will be unchanged, yeah.
And, I also share Brian's concern with the removal of all that brick and we could discuss that later, but I'm just wondering if you change all of this, which I guess you're making fully operable door windows. Is that correct on all of these, on the entire facade?
On the ones where we're touching, you see here on page 7 here, the proposed is touching only the last 4 windows on Prince Street and both windows on Thompson Street. All the others where you were talking about where the kitchen is, those remain untouched.
Oh, I see. So I'm sorry. Yeah, I see what you mean. So you're only on the Prince Street view there, you're only doing the 4 windows, and after that you're leaving it exactly the way it is.
Right, yeah, because it's mainly for the Coco Pazzo, it's mainly for them to have more, how can I say, more openness toward the road or toward the street,
Yeah, no, I understand. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Bo, is there anything I need to note about what you think or we're just confirming?
Well, no, the only thing that I'm noting is that my concern about the use of the street door that's currently openable, the architect said that they're not changing that, and okay. I see now when I look closely at it that there's not even a proposed change in the drawing. So I understand. That's it.
Thank you, Valerie.
Yep. Are there any other questions from committee members?
I had a question. Albert.
Not a question. Could you go back to the previous slide, please?
The photo, this?
There, on the bottom. I just want to call the committee's attention to the bracket sign in relation to our previous applicant. The sign is considerably smaller than the bracket itself. That's it.
And I just had a question. I mean, this doesn't necessarily relate to landmarks, but I just wanted to point out that you had promised that you wouldn't be doing this in the past to the liquor licensing committee, and your application was approved on behalf of the liquor licensing committee, specifically with stipulations that you would not install operable windows, French doors, etc. And I was just wondering, you know, you're installing something that you're precluded from using right now.
That I don't, yeah, I don't know about that.
You don't know about it? Okay. I mean,
No, I'm just the architect. I came after I came, you know, I was given this.
It sounds like
the,
passed
well,
along.
we've signed and notarized stipulations that are on file with the New York State Liquor Authority that the applicant here would not do this.
We have a sort of boilerplate language to put in when it laps over into another committee's area or another commission's area.
I'm sure that we can find the resolution.
Now, are you saying we're finished?
No, I was saying, I'm sure that we can find that resolution with those stipulations or.
I have them. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm just asking if they had taken that into account, because it's sort of like a build it before you can do it kind of thing. And this was a huge case or a huge issue in this particular case. And a significant number of members of the community came out and spoke against this application. And that was what assuaged them into being okay with this and with the earlier hours of operation. And so it's a critical element of another position the board has taken, and now they're applying for something different. And so even though it doesn't go to landmarks, it sort of puts us in two different positions coming from two different places. So that's why I bring it up. But if the applicant's here, there's nobody to address it with, and that's unfortunate.
Carter, when was that resolution?
That was, yeah, let me just go back and look. That was in February of 2017.
Okay, thanks.
Could you finish, Carter?
Yeah, that was it. I mean, it's just.
Okay. Valerie, who else?
Yeah, are there any other questions from the committee? I don't have a question myself, so if not, we will go to the public. There's someone, there was someone with their hand raised first, AB. Hello?
Can you hear us?
Yes.
Hi, my name is Alessandro Bandini, and I'm here with Pino Luongo. We are the partners at Copopazzo. And Pino is going to talk to you.
Yeah, it is. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, back in February of 2017, when we went to the CB meetings for the liquor license, we were specifically asked the questions in reference to having this, trying to have an outdoor dining room of some sort of opening doors to the space. At that time, we were in the middle of dealing with various issues on the space, because if you remember, this space was boarded up, abandoned for 3.5 years. And at that time, we did not realize that behind the plywood and the woods and the windows, there was not much of any natural light coming into the space. So we went and we spent a substantial amount of money to basically gather the space to the floors, ceilings, walls, do all the work that needs to be done. And then when we were finally ready to open in April 2018, quickly we came to realize that due to the location of the restaurants in Prince and Thompson, everyone around us that was before us or before the building was landmark rushed to do all conversion to be able to have opening folding doors into the street so the business would not die down during the summer months. We went through the first summer, and we, even though we opened it fairly successfully from the beginning. As soon as the odd months came, our business dropped 30% because we were the only place in the entire Prince Thompson, Sullivan, and further down to 6th Avenue that did not have the ability to open any doors or any windows to the customers and make it much more of a welcoming space. Come the winter time was a different story, but we were losing 3 months of business at around 25–30% a month. So after that, we decided to explore the possibility to bring the space at the same level as the existing place before My Lady.
Oh, sorry.
Can you still hear me?
Sir, we understand about the reason for this. Our specific task here is to evaluate the changes in design and architecture of the building. And I think we understand why you want to do it, but that's not our consideration. Ours is the result of the application before us.
But my objection, my proposal is based to reinstate the same type of windows that were in place back in the 20s.
Can this gentleman answer Carter's question?
I'm sorry?
Can this gentleman answer Carter's question about the liquor license stipulation?
That wasn't a question, it was a statement. So.
I said yes when we went to the board meeting to have the liquor license review in February of 2017. At that time, we had no intention whatsoever to looking into open doors and windows. But we have been running the business since. We respect the hours of business. And more important, back there, the concern was if we were going to do mostly a bar. We actually are a restaurant, not a bar.
Okay, thanks. Are there other questions? Valerie, you have anyone else in the queue?
Yes, we do have Pete Davies.
Pete?
Pete?
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, I'm just, this picture here that's up, the uniformity of the exterior of the building wrapping the restaurant. I know this restaurant, I've eaten there, I really like it. The interior room is terrific. But the uniformity that is there now, the connectedness between the, is totally wiped out by the proposal. Also the hatch right there, just to the left of the entryway, is not shown in the proposed rendering with the glass. That will extend way up into the glass. The other restaurants nearby that did not rush to put in doors include Raoul's and Dutch. There have been many problems. I know it's a use issue, not a landmarks issue, but with the others that added those operable doors, it's created quite a few problems in the nearby area. And I would just urge the committee to really look at the visual that would be created by this change and strongly consider if that is appropriate. Thank you.
The windows the way they are, we put the bricks under.
Valerie, are there others?
No, there are no other people that have their hands raised.
Okay, thank you. The gentleman who's running the slide just asked you to stand by.
Yeah, I'm going to move.
Okay, leave him able to share, and then move everybody else away.
Okay. Great.
Okay. If without objection, if we could consider this first, since we have the gentleman with the pictures there, and otherwise don't have access to seeing anything, could we first consider the question of of the liquor license and with respect to the operable doors. We have wording that I don't have before me that essentially says that if we were to approve it, that it would be subject to its not being in violation with agreements or other arrangements or zoning and all that sort of thing. So with that, who would like to comment? Valerie, just raise your hands, please. It's much more orderly. And Valerie, just say who's going to speak. And
Sure, Brian.
All right, thank you again. Well, as far as the liquor license stipulation, obviously that could be handled with fixed glass for all these new windows. But if they are allowed to have any operable units, maybe very limited just for the sake of ventilation when they're cleaning inside or something like that, I would be sympathetic to something like that where maybe 1 out of 4 windows might be operable. But I still feel that the continuous ribbon of brick on the bulkhead under the windows to me is important visually. So I think that could be considered. Thank you.
okay, no, just continue and I'll stop it.
Susan?
Oh, thanks. Yeah, I think, the concern that Carter brought up and that you propose to address, Chenault, by including that sort of boilerplate language is incredibly important. I mean, it really is important. Things change, but if you have agreed, if an operator has agreed to a certain set of stipulations that are required in order to get a liquor license, that's what it is. That we just can't ignore or change that. So I feel very strongly that that has to be noted in the resolution. And I totally agree with Brian that the masonry, that a masonry bulkhead is very, very important here. That steel has no place in this proposed vision of this storefront.
Next.
Bo?
Yeah, I wasn't clear. I think I agree with what has been proposed by Brian and seconded by Susan, but are you saying that the bulkhead lowered is okay as long as it's brick? Is that what you're saying? In other words, the windows enlarged to the extent of that bulkhead, but the bulkhead against the sidewalk, but that only be in brick rather than in metal. Is that right?
That is what I'm saying, yes.
And Susan, that's what you're saying?
I think that's worth discussing a little further.
Yeah, that's what, and the other thing, let me just point out that I think either I'm wrong or somebody else is wrong. The architect stated that it's only the 4 windows starting at the corner, 1, 2, 3, 4, that will be changed, and the rest of it will not be changed. So somebody made an issue of the hatchway, but I believe the architect stated that he's not changing that at all. So if that's true, I think we're only talking about the 4 windows next to the entrance on the corner, and then the 4 windows the other way on top.
Let's get it up and have a look. Could you go back to a slide that shows the proposed?
Yes.
So that we get a picture of how it actually is. That's good. Yeah.
I just wanted to go on.
No, that first rendering was the best. It's just clearer. This one you started with. It's back about 3, I think.
Wait.
Some are easier to see on the screen.
This.
And go back.
So
yes. And
so this is Prince Street. On the bottom, we see the proposed Prince Street. I think what the hatch that was being talked about is this.
We can see this is the question of the windows. Bo, does this confirm what you're asking or
No,
something.
no, that's what I thought. But I thought somebody was questioning whether that hatch would come up into the a proposed new window, and I believe it will not, because they're not proposing changing the window that's over that hatch, which
Okay.
is next to the residential door.
I'd like to say this about the windows. The moment we approve the side, if we approve operable windows and say they can't be operated, that's folly. If we approve windows of this sort that can be made into operable windows at a later time, we are inviting that to happen.
Well,
I'm not taking a position. I'm simply saying that's the case.
Well, can I just ask, is Carter still on? Because I just want.
Yeah.
Carter, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Did they? So the SLA application, in that they specifically stated that they would not include operable windows. Is that correct?
Let me just get the exact language, and I will tell you. The executed stipulations form says they will not have French doors, operable windows, or open facades, and will keep their, like any open doors, closed at all times.
All right. So Chenault, thanks, Carter. So Chenault, it seems to me we have to do what you suggested.
Okay, Carter, if it says French doors, that means things that can open and shut, right?
Yes.
Not permanent things that look like French doors.
Correct.
Okay.
And also just one other thing, and instead of interrupting you guys later, because I can't raise my hand, is that one of the other elements here, which may or may not be relevant, that this is an R zone and not a C zone. And so I'm not supposed to use the word grandfathering anymore, but I just read that yesterday, so I don't know what the replacement.
I didn't hear you well. Could you repeat that?
I said I'm not supposed to use the word grandfathered anymore, but I don't know the replacement word that we all can understand what that is. So I'm sort of in the mix here.
Oh.
But this is a commercial space, that predates the existing zoning, but it is in a residential zone, and so that's why there's a mishmash of different buildings here historically, on this street.
Did I understand the present condition predates designation?
The use predates the zoning.
Do we want to settle this matter before we? Oh, no, let's do. Is there any other aspect of the application of which there are hardly any?
Chenault, you do have, there is the applicant, the owner does have their hand raised. Do you want them to be able to speak or not?
Let us finish our discussion, then we'll ask. Are there any other aspects other than there are two things before us, I feel. The fact of the size of the windows and their being operable or not. What's proposed is operable windows of this size. We could discuss non-operable windows of this size. Does anybody want to ask anything else? Yeah. From the applicant, we can hear information, but we can't hear rebuttal. So if you would open him, please.
Okay.
Hello?
Should be moved over.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Mine is no rebuttal. It's a simple request to establish what was in place in the original space before My Lady, which is ultimately that's the goal that we would like to achieve.
Okay, thank you.
Great. I'm going to move you back over.
Can we then, sorry, it's hard. Can you, whatever it's called, degrade's not a good word, take everybody off the,
yes,
except Carter and the committee so that I can see them and we have a little more meaningful discussion?
You can stop sharing the screen, should accomplish that, right?
There you go. I moved the architect over to attendee.
Okay, and just anybody else that's there, so if I can get everybody up. Okay, can we take this in two separate considerations? One consideration is as proposed. First, are all in agreement on the question of the bulkhead that was raised by Brian, which is to continue the masonry, essentially leave masonry that's there as the bulkhead. Is anyone out of agreement with that aspect if we approve the large windows?
I agree.
As Carter likes to say, seeing none, we'll move on. Does anyone object to the size of the windows and their being operable as proposed?
Yes, I would object to operable, but not
Okay,
the size.
anyone else reserve?
I object to the operable because it's against what another committee had in there.
Okay.
But let me just, was the owner suggesting that before Milady's, there were windows that were, there was a different configuration there? I mean, that's what he seemed to say, but.
Yeah, we're really considering what's here as the existing condition and what's proposed. And this
well, I mean, the argument might be, I mean, I didn't see them
condition.
standing with the SLUing
Right.
just from yeah, I mean, just from a purely landmarks point of view, he might be hearkening back to some condition that existed way back when, which I didn't see any evidence of, but that's what I understood that he said.
Well, that's an important point.
And we don't know whether that is original or not, if it
Well,
existed.
yeah, no, I'm just saying that, I don't personally remember anything. I don't know when Milady's got there. As far as I know, it was always there. But from a strictly landmarks point of view, if there was in fact a different window configuration, operable or not, that he's hearkening back to and raising as a precedent, I think that's relevant to us. I didn't see any evidence of that, but he seemed to say that in his last statement a few minutes ago.
Shouldn't he then go back to the SLA committee and ask for a modification of the original stipulation, if that's what he's claiming? Shouldn't that first go to SLA?
No, probably. I'm not saying that. I'm just trying to get clear one simple thing. Did in fact the owner suggest that there was a landmark situation there years ago that that he can use as a precedent for what he is now proposing? I think he said that.
Oh, he totally implied it. Yes. The fact that it was implied is one thing. I mean, if that's what the argument for the larger windows, if that's the landmarks rationale for the larger windows, then it belongs in the proposal. It doesn't belong in an after the fact casual remark by the owner. I mean, that's a very important fact. You're absolutely, if it is a fact, because it's foundational to an argument. But then we need to.
I can share the picture. It's in the presentation. If you guys want, I can put it up on the screen. Which
yes, I'm looking. I did receive the package before the meeting, and so I have it in front of me as well. It is.
Carter, can you share it, please?
Yeah. The text photo from the 1940s or late 30s does show the larger windows, but they look like storefront windows. They look like fixed windows to me.
Yeah, give me 1 second. I'll pull it up just so everybody can see what Brian is referring to.
While Carter's looking at, my point is.
That's it.
Oh.
That's the.
Well, they are larger.
mean, it looks like that there's some sort of vertical elements right in there that maybe match some of the other historic storefronts, and there's clearly a very, the transom underneath is clearly substantial, right? I mean,
Right, but
plenty of horizontal ones as well.
But they do appear to be larger than the existing.
Right.
Yes.
That's true. These also do not appear. This could conceivably be an inoperable window. A lower window just cries out to be operable, unless it's a mercantile establishment.
I'm by no means an expert in this area, but I know in my experience in other parts of our landmarked districts, not this particular one, but the infill was done, you know, in the 50s, 60s, you know, for many reasons to shore up these old storefronts that were all wooden and glass, makes it safer, et cetera. I'm just wondering, you know, without anything more specific, if the assumption that there's some windows that can go in there that are operable based off this photograph seem a little far-fetched, because the composition, don't you guys think, would have been different from looking at this picture?
I think the question of being operable is overridden by the agreement with the liquor authority.
Well, I'm just saying it looks like it's a substantial real storefront with the wooden, you know, setup, maybe some of the angled glass or something. It doesn't look, there's something going on there that's
a tall bulkhead for one thing.
Yeah.
You know, I don't think any of this is relevant to the question before us about what promises were made to in the SLA process.
Well, we're discussing the size of the window, not the operability of it.
I understand.
But we can, do others have a comment on the size of the window?
Yeah, I would say historically, those look like 32 to 34 inches tall, judging by the person standing nearest the entrance and the windows.
And it looks like the masonry by the doorway or the garbage or whatever it is taller than one could sit on. From
Yes.
the man beside it.
Yes.
Which somehow relates to the thing. We could do the following. We could request approve, deny unless the bulkhead is substantially higher or approximately a certain dimension, and that there are mullions based somehow on the tax photograph. Or we can approve it without the mullions, or we can approve it as, I think we've agreed, modified with some sort of a bulkhead in masonry. Does anyone have opinion on it? Because someone suggests one of those might be most agreeable.
I like your first suggestion, Chenault.
My first suggestion is that there be a substantial bulkhead of an approximate size based on the tax photograph, and fixed windows with mullions based on the tax photograph.
And I would add that some language about the resolution in 2017 from the SLA committee.
Oh, well, that's a separate item that will be sternly mentioned. Yes.
Okay.
Is that agreeable then? Shall I say it once more?
Yes.
It would be a deny unless, which is the strongest thing we can do except deny, unless the bulkhead is in masonry and substantially higher based on the tax photograph, and that there be mullions in the fixed windows based on the tax photograph, and that the windows be inoperable. Separately, we'll have a section on the rationale for the inoperability.
Okay.
That sounds good.
And I do believe that we're honoring their need. It's understandable that you can look into every other restaurant and can't this, but we've satisfied that welcoming aspect, I believe, with our resolution to help the restaurant do well without violating a landmark consideration.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, again, Sunil, just at the risk of stating the obvious, they decided to go into this place about 4 years ago. I mean, and the windows were what they were,
Right. Exactly. That's along the lines of my saying, why do people buy a row house in the village and then want to change it to something that belongs in Queens or in where?
Exactly.
Okay. Thank you all. The applicants are excused.
Could I ask a question, please?
Yes.
Is I should recuse myself from voting on this because I can't really see it clearly. Is the sending of the design, the proposal to the committee members, has that anything to do with the LPC?
Albert, what we could do is send you the proper file that you'll be able to see as well as the others. And you can let me know based on that and the resolution that I'll also send you if you agree.
Because I can't enlarge this the way I
And
can enlarge
and I'm going to we'll send you the regular one so you can.
the email.
And then, so we'll take your vote as provisional according to what you see. And everyone else, I believe, is in agreement, as I stated it last night.
Yes, by the way, the office sent us this file at 4 o'clock this
Okay,
afternoon.
it was just inexcusably late, and so we can't deal with any other thing about that. Thank you, all the people from this application, and we'll move on to the other. I'm a bit puzzled why there were so many questions about it. It seemed clear. Does everyone understand now what's being proposed? I think the problem is that the rendering doesn't show the fact that it's has depth and is closed. It is clear that it's a black background and orange letters. And the reason I believe it's reading so differently from the Aldo sign is that the Aldo sign has the painted outline of the neon behind it. And this, in a little more contemporary look, floats in front of the black. With that, Valerie, can you organize comments on the sign?
Yeah, does anyone have any, raise your hand if you have a comment. Sandy.
I just don't see that it looks like the Fedora sign or the Waverly Diner sign or the Golden Rule Liquor sign. Those neon lights look different to me unless the rendering is completely sort of misshowing what they intend to do. Where you see the glass letters, you see the connecting pipe that's painted back between the two letters. It doesn't have the style or.
Is the applicant still here? I can question.
The lettering is very modern.
Is the applicant here? I'd like to pose the question.
Yeah. I moved her over. I could also move over Robert.
Doesn't look authentic.
Did you have a question? Because Valerie Campbell is on as well as Robert Goldman.
Okay. The question is, the letters as shown in the rendering are shown flat against the black. Is the connecting part of the neon behind the black metal or in front of it?
I think it's going to be in front of it. The intent is to have it look like the
in front of that.
The way neon usually does.
I'm sorry, I forgot to ask that question earlier, but it seems like it certainly is a more historic way.
Right.
The only historic way. Okay, thank you, Valerie. Okay, based on that, it's just the rendering's lousy, sadly. That's the upshot. It doesn't give a fair representation, but we have to imagine from that those letters are more neon looking.
I didn't think Valerie's answer was definitive. She said
No.
she thinks so. So I'm going to vote no.
Well, no, wait. We can say that we approve it provided that, or we deny it unless there. So we can cover it. We don't have to decide on the vote.
I understand, but the lettering itself is much too modern for that kind of sign. It doesn't bring to mind the old classic neon signs.
She represented that they're matching the Aldo lettering, which it looked like. It is the fact that it's not painted behind the neon
Well,
that
maybe
makes it look
that's
so
it.
different. We
Maybe
can
that's
put that. We can do anything, but let's settle what the facts are first, please.
We could also agree with you that we could have done a much better job with the rendering and shown the sort of side elevation of how the lettering is in front of that black background. And, you know, just based on where we are with our renderings and signage, we did the best we could with the other photos and the other sort of artistic representations. So
But it is letters without anything behind them except the black, right?
it is exactly as the Aldo.
Okay, we'll deal with that.
So they're
Okay,
not channel lit. It's on tube lighting, correct?
Say that again, Valerie?
It's yellow neon tube lighting. Is that correct?
Correct.
okay. Does everyone on the committee understand what it looks like, regardless of the render?
Well, I understand what you've all been saying it looks like, but I agree with Sandy. It doesn't look like that to me, but I'll go along with however you want to do this. But it just doesn't look the way they're representing that it does.
I'm going to make a proposal once we finish our discussion. Has anyone on the committee who hasn't spoken
Yes.
had a thought?
Doris?
Yeah. Chenault?
Yes.
Are
I hear
taking
you.
Votes on the two items already? Are you taking votes on the two items?
I can't understand, Doris. Can someone else?
Are you taking votes on the two items?
Not yet. We're asking for discussion.
Yeah, well, I would be in favor of the second one, of the first one, but opposed to the second one because I didn't see the designs or anything. I didn't have any pictures or anything.
Okay. Well, Doris, I'll talk to you about how we can get the drawings to you so you can then make a judgment.
Yeah, but that I
Is
should
it-
have seen it during the discussions.
Okay. Are there
because
other?
I really can't vote on it
Okay.
being.
No, we'll give you the opportunity to vote tomorrow or so on it. Are there other comments about this?
Yeah, I just wanted to Sandy's point. I think that why it's not just the quality of the rendering that makes the sign look contemporary, but it is also there's a graphic aspect to it. I don't know if it's the font or what, but there does seem to be some compositional graphic aspect that is contemporary. Now, whether people object to that or not is a different issue, but I do think it's worth noting that there is a graphics aspect.
I do, and I would like to, if the applicant could please put up on the screen the Aldo sign. Can you organize that, Valerie?
I think she's working on it, or he's working on it.
Okay, what is, to my eyes, so different between these two is the fact that Aldo's is written out in white letters behind the neon. Because this is a bright daylight picture of the sign. And I believe that that's what we're missing and that we could ask for.
And
that addresses Susan's question.
Guys, I would be happy to promise as closely as I can promise that the difference on our sign, if you'll allow us, would be to change this sign's name from Aldo's to Amos. And we would walk away as happy as can be.
Okay.
wait,
And to
I
the
don't understand.
the question of the font, I believe it's been faithfully reproduced. Was that your intention?
I agree our rendering may have not shown the same font, but
right. Okay.
we can state right here that the font will be if you guys wish, which we're happy to do.
Okay, is the committee willing to take this as a representation of a modification of the presentation?
I have a question.
Okay.
Is the word restaurant going to be the same as it is in Aldo's? Because it's much smaller in your new rendition.
So if the committee desires to keep it the same size, we would do that for you.
Would you go back to your rendering again, please? Everybody keep this in your head. We can't see them at the same time.
Back one.
Okay, yeah, that. So this is the difference. Opposite. Look at again at this, and go back to Aldo's again. So that's the difference. That restaurant is more prominent.
We can accommodate your wish to have it say restaurant. And
okay. If the committee is agreeable, we'll write the resolution in a way that the applicant has represented that the graphic of the Aldo side will be.
Sorry. If I understand the applicant correctly, and what is now being discussed is literally replicating the Aldo's restaurant sign, simply changing the word Aldo's to Amos, then is that what we're all, am I understanding that correctly?
That is what we would do for the community board if it pleases you.
Well, I would be in favor. I would totally support that.
Okay, is there anyone, does everyone understand what's being said? Look at Aldo's and imagine a different word from Aldo's. You rename the restaurant Aldo's and it's all the problem, but I guess not. So does anyone disagree with this sign replacing the word Aldo's with, sorry, I forgot the name.
Amos.
Amos.
No objection.
And the A is a good model for the
right.
letter from the same one.
Right. I support that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Who's got
and the resolution will be written to take into consideration this essential modification.
What is this sound, guys?
Ask somebody to mute.
I think Albert has a question.
Okay.
Albert, you're on mute.
Albert,
I got it.
Albert, are you there?
Am I unmuted? No.
Speak, Albert.
Yes?
Yes, speak.
My question is, are you suggesting that they add the word restaurant?
It's there, it's so small you can't see it.
To make it conform to the Aldo's
It's going to
sign.
match the Aldo's sign.
Because the letters on the new Amos sign are considerably larger.
We know that. We're talking about a new sign that copies the Aldo sign. If you put the Aldos up again, please. Okay, this is the sign we're approving initially with a different word.
Well, it's two, what I'm saying is that it's two words as opposed to one.
Right, yes. Are there other comments or questions? Okay.
Well, I was waiting for somebody to call on me because I had my hand up, but failing that, I would like to point out that the letter of support was very complete, comprehensive in its support. And I do find that they have duplicated or replicated the sign, the proportion, and the color as best they can. So with this new lettering change that the applicant is making, I would agree to that.
I believe what we've come up with is that it's going to look like they found at the basement and changed the word. That's our hope.
We would happily abide by all these stipulations or.
Good. Thank you very much. Are there other, did anyone on the committee need to say anything more?
Was there anything, notwithstanding this music, that do we all hear this music?
Yes.
The owner seems to, on the chat, he asked if he could speak. I don't know if we want to let him do that, but if you look at the chat, the owner was identified as AB, and it says to all panelists, can we talk? We would like to clarify.
I'm sorry, it's my alarm clock, and I had my noise canceling headsets on, so I was the one that didn't hear it. Go ahead, guys.
And I'm just saying that the owner seems to have chatted to us on if you look at the chat function. Can he talk? He would like to clarify. So
I object.
That's a different. That's not us.
That was the prior owner.
Oh, okay. All right, fine. That's it.
I mean, I think we've come to a conclusion about this, and they're agreeing.
Okay, let the applicant speak if Robert, you finished?
So we thank you guys for just giving us the time. If we're happy to make the modifications to make this exactly as Aldo's restaurant sign was, with just our name instead of Aldo's, and putting the white lettering behind the neon tubes.
And what you're representing is that's what you will give to the for the presentation to the commission.
We can give that, yes.
We have to talk to staff because we need to submit the revised rendering and the drawing.
Yeah, that happens. I mean, it's not the
but we
first
should
time.
be able to do that.
Can I ask
And the revisions, in fact, are not that large, but they're important.
Yeah.
So it's not.
The
size was a big question, and I think that's been settled.
So the coloring of the tube does the committee have a position on whether yellow tube is okay?
I don't think anyone objected to it, no.
Thank you.
I don't recall what color Aldo's was. I'm sorry to be so poor as a resource.
You know?
Thank you. Are the committee finished?
Looks like
anything to be said? Okay, thank you. We'll see you at the board meeting.
Thank you for your time.
And I will send to Albert and I'll send to everybody oh, no, it'll be on the website. Sorry. I want to send to Doris. She'll put up tomorrow morning the materials for the other application that we didn't have. And so you'll have those before you to review. And once you reviewed them, if they're gross comments, send them along to me. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Carter, for the mechanics.
Thanks.
And thank you, Valerie, for managing
everyone.
No, it's great to see everyone.
And everybody for having an opinion.
Chanel, I like your wisteria. Is that your wisteria?
That is the view from sitting on my roof.
Okay.
Except it's a mirror image for some reason, but
no. But is it the wisteria that you were trying to put on there?
The wisteria is the darker in the background, and it's all intertwined with a tree that's in the foreground.
Got it. Okay.
When I turn around and look at it, it's like being in the country, so I don't have to use public transportation.
Nice. All right, cool.
Guys.
Okay.
Okay, bye. Bye.
Good night, all.
Good night.
Oh, and Albert, you can go to the website tomorrow and see it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good night.
Carter, did you want to speak?
Oh, no.
Oh, okay.
Oh, it's a mirror image. It's a mirror image to you, but not to us.
Yeah.
It's so that when you raise your hand in the video, it matches where you are physically, but we see the reverse image.
Oh. And
So-
I will now go take my pill that the alarm clock told me to.
Beautiful aria. I enjoyed it.
Thank you.
Carter, the word you were looking for was pre-existing non-conforming use.
Yes, that's right.
You did not use the expression grandfathered. It's pre-existing non-conforming use.
Yes,
because it was there before the zoning was changed.
Yeah, I couldn't grasp at it because I've been getting much sleep recently, but yeah.
It's a mouthful, but that's the correct. I didn't want to interrupt the meeting. Pre-existing non-conforming use.
Right, that's right. And we should be using that long-winded phraseology
right.
in the future, right? 'Cause it's
okay. Good night.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Have a good night.